Hello and welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. Well, as we go into 2018 here, one of the most important contacts you can make is with your banker. We're going to talk a little today about working together with your banker.
One of the things too that we're going to talk about is out in the field, organic matter. What really is it, and how important is it to build those levels of organic matter in your soils? We'll talk about the importance and how to get it done.
Well, we've got a very difficult to control Weed of the Week coming up later in the show, as well as our Iron Talk segment. But first, here's this week's Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
One of the most common questions we get from non-farmers all the time is Roundup safe for humans?
So where do we turn for answers? Do we look at science as a determining factor? I do. I look at science for a lot of things in life. Well, what does that do to the body? Is it a possible carcinogen? Those kinds of things. Science can answer the questions. How about social media? You know, if you go on social media, you can type in the same question, how safe is Roundup for humans? And you're going to get all kinds of crazy things that may or may not have any scientific backing.
All right, so first of all, understand this. With Roundup, it works on an enzyme that's found only in plants. So when we start talking about the active ingredient glyphosate, there's no possible physical way it's ever going to hurt a human being because we don't have that enzyme in us. That's awesome. I'm so excited about that as a farmer and as someone who works in ag. You know, if I look back 30, 40, 50 years ago, we did have a lot of dangerous products that we were using. But fortunately today, most of those products are gone and they're replaced with dramatically safer products like Roundup, for example. And again, it just works on an enzyme that's found only in plants.
One other measurement of safety that you'll find right on the MSDS sheets for any pesticide that's out there is something called LD50. The government uses LD50, or the lethal dose, to kill 50% of a population of whatever they're testing on. They'll use this LD50 as a rating scale to see which products are more dangerous and how much of a dosage of certain products it would take. Now, when you look at things like caffeine, it's something I consume every day by choice. Well, caffeine, the lethal dose, the LD50, is 200 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So you say, oh, okay, well, it would take a lot of caffeine to get things done. The LD50 on Roundup is 5,000 milligrams per kilogram, so it would take a lot more Roundup per kilogram of body weight to harm me than it would caffeine, which I choose to drink every day.
So our whole point here is simply look at science and the fact that, hey, over the last, whatever it's been now, 40, 50 years that Roundup's been out or Roundup's been in testing, it's never been found to be a carcinogen. It works on an enzyme found only in plants. It is ridiculously safe compared to the products we used to use years ago. So don't get us wrong. We're not saying, oh, we want to just go ahead and drink a whole bunch of glyphosate or anything like that. But what we are saying is when this product is used according to the label, it's very, very safe for our environment.
Well, that's a good thing, Brian, because there are a lot of weeds to kill out there, including our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?
N, P, and K. They're critical for a healthy crop. Improve their availability and your yield potential with QuickRoots Microbial Seed Inoculant. QuickRoots Technology contains 2 powerful microbes that can help improve access to key nutrients, and it's available in an easy-to-apply formulation. Simply mix it directly into your dry planter box and your seeds will be covered. Learn more at monsantobioag.com/quickroots.
The buzz on this line is probably the best in 10 years, both in soil and in the plant. Joe, you've been doing this for a while. What's your take?
Well, Don, you take a player like High Energy N, 3 forms of nitrogen, plus sulfur and iron with slow release technology. He's making plays all season long.
Oh, look at his numbers. He's getting it done.
But don't forget about N Response. This guy's designed for a quick release nitrogen.
It's looking like another championship season for Agro Liquid.
Leading the charge in strip tillage for more than a decade, the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm today.
We started utilizing the Dual React system this year. You can adjust your speed and it automatically adjusts your sprayer tips. So you can slow down and you aren't building up huge droplets, or you can speed up and you're not throwing a mist that's drifting.
Hypro, helping you spray better.
Our Morton is so much more to us than just a building. It's a place where we spend time with friends. It's a place where we hold family gatherings. It's become very important to us.
Morton Buildings. For work. For life. For generations. Contact us now during our annual sales event to save on your next building.
One of the things Darren and I have learned over the years is that farmers are very open when talking about things on their farm to other farmers, to agronomists, but you know what? Farmers just don't like talking to bankers, Darren.
Well, they make them nervous, Brian, because you might say no. You know, we want to do something a little different on the farm, but the banker might say no, and that's never fun.
Well, when it comes to the banker saying no, let's just put it this way. The banker wants your business, just like your seed dealer, your chemical dealer, your equipment dealer. The banker wants your business too. So don't ever forget that. The banker is really trying to sell you something rather than the other way around.
Well, you got to remember too, your banker is not an agronomist. So, well, I highly doubt your banker's an agronomist, that they have both those skills. So you have to think about it this way. You're trying to talk about, hey, here's this agronomic thing I want to do on my farm, but the banker's looking at dollars and cents here. So you do need to speak in the language of the banker if you want to communicate well.
Well, what is the language of the banker? It's things like APR, return on investment, net return on investment, profit and loss. So you want to spin as much as you can about your farm into that type of language. I'm not saying change any facts or anything else. I'm just saying change the words you use and how you use words to describe what you're trying to accomplish.
So the important thing is to do a little bit of research and do a little homework here before you talk to the banker. So let's, for example, say you're looking at using a fungicide for the first time post-emerge on your soybeans. And you say, you know what, all the data shows a 3-bushel advantage for me, and that's worth $30 an acre in return, but I have to spend $5 an acre or $10 an acre to get that kind of return. So when you're talking to the banker, rather than say, hey, I need another $5 an acre, I need another $10 an acre, hey, here's what I'm looking at. The studies have shown this. I've done a little bit of trial work on my own farm or right across the road with my neighbor, and here's what we've seen. We've got a 200% return on investment if we do this on average over the years, so we'd like to give it a shot.
So what we're saying is prepare and use data, and then also, again, speak in that language of the banker. Those are all important things. The other big thing that we wanted to talk about today is the importance of the local banker. And I realize today that a lot of input suppliers are offering financing, but that financing comes at a cost in most cases. You have to give up your cash discount in a lot of situations, and that's not real good. So if you figure, even if it costs 7% APR to do that, well, in a lot of cases, you should be able to borrow from your local banker at a lower price than that and borrow it when you need it, pay it back when you want to pay it back, so your overall net interest cost is less.
Sure, your ag retailer may have a 0% interest offer on a certain herbicide that you really like to use. If there's no strings attached to that, great. Go ahead and take that for your farm. But many times we see offers where, yep, there's 0% financing, but you're giving up all your cash discount. So you do need to take a look at that there is that cost that Brian had mentioned.
Well, once again, we just really encourage you, do what you can to work with your banker and be preemptive. Work with the banker early. Get yourself prepared. have actual data when you go in. Speak in the language of the banker and do everything you can to try to work with your local banker. And if you're not happy with the local banker, you don't like the rates, you don't like the person, you don't like the situation, there are lots of banks around there. But I would just really encourage you, work with your local banker in most cases. That's probably going to be your best overall net deal.
One other thing to pay attention to on your farm is our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?
Grow your incentives, not weeds. Earn an additional $6 per acre in cash back when you apply XtendiMax herbicide with Vapor Grip technology on your Roundup Ready 2 Xtend soybeans, along with endorsed herbicides from Roundup Ready Plus Crop Management Solutions. Now you have the right tools to manage weeds and your bottom line. Visit growyouриncentives.com to see your total incentives opportunity.
There are 6,272,640 square inches in an acre. We counted. Why? Because we designed the TigerMate 255 field cultivator and 2000 series early riser planter to maximize every single one. So when you create the most level seed bed in the industry and target a nickel-size area to plant a seed and never miss, you'll know in high-efficiency farming, there's one name to count on: Case IH. Rethink productivity. Learn more at caseih.com/everyinch.
About 2 or 3 years ago, I went ahead and I started planting nothing but Liberty, and I haven't regretted it since. We've had no problems with resistance. All the resistance mare's tail that we had out there, velvet leaf or cockleburs or pigweed, I clean up the fields. I didn't have to go back. One application took care of the weeds. If I wasn't getting control on weeds and would have to fight it all year long, I wouldn't hesitate to guess that we'd probably be losing at least 25% of yield. First time I ever used Liberty Link beans, I had it right next to Roundup beans. The Liberty Link beans were standing about twice as tall. They had twice as many pods on it. That was the thing that sold me on it. If it can do it there on that tough ground, let's just start spreading it over the whole place. And that's what I did, and I went 100% and I haven't looked back.
One of the most important tests you can get on your soil test is the level of organic matter in your soil. Today we're going to talk about what exactly organic matter is and why it's so important for your farm.
Well, first of all, organic matter, let's talk about what it's not. It's not all that plant residue laying on top of your soil. Some of that organic material on top of the ground could eventually be organic matter below soil, but this is one of those things that they're totally different terms.
So what organic matter really is decayed plant and animal residue. It's in a different state than just that organic material that is laying on top of the ground. So it's had to decompose over a period of time. Now, let's talk about some of the reasons why organic matter is really important in your soil. The number one thing that I guess I would say is it kind of makes your soil a little bit cushiony. It's almost like stepping on a sponge to some degree. So it makes your soil more resilient. Everything from compaction and tillage. Organic matter is just incredibly important in that way.
Organic matter is also really important because it can hold nutrients that normally soil doesn't hold very well. So with soil, it has a negative charge. So it holds positively charged nutrients pretty well, but it doesn't hold negatively charged nutrients like nitrate, for example. Well, with organic matter in the soil, that does have the potential to hold some of those negatively charged nutrients. It also has great potential to improve your water holding capacity. For each 1% you can improve or build your organic matter levels in the soil, it can hold 4% more water. So if you can build organic matter levels up by 3%, for example, that's 12% more water your soil can hold, which could be a huge deal for you in the middle of the summer.
Well, speaking of water, the thing that I like too about organic matter is it helps water move down through the soil. When you have good levels of organic matter, there is some soil porosity. We also have a better host for some of the microbes that are in soil. Just the overall soil life is improved when you have decent levels of organic matter. So ideally, what would I like to have for organic matter levels? Well, on our own farm, I'd love to have 5% to 7% organic matter. There's kind of a limit to it. If I had 15 or 20% organic matter, I might start to have a lot of tie-up in terms of herbicide, in terms of drainage. It might be difficult to drain, that type of thing. But in most cases, we're not too worried about building organic matter levels too high, but I'd really like to see them 5% to 7%.
And one of the reasons why is organic matter naturally mineralizes each summer. So a small percentage of that organic matter breaks down, releasing nutrients for your crop. For example, one of the nutrients it releases is nitrogen, and you end up with 10 to 20, maybe 30 pounds of nitrogen, depending on where you're at and how long your summer is and so forth. But we usually figure on our farm, 20 pounds of nitrogen comes free for each 1% of organic matter. We get 4 to 7 pounds of phosphate that'll come available from each 1% of organic matter, and 2 to 3 pounds of sulfur too. So this is a pretty good thing when you think about how much those nutrients would cost if you had to apply them to your field. If you can get them to come available for free, you're going to save money and make money on your farm.
One of the things you have probably heard over the years is, oh, there's a nitrogen credit for soybeans. That's a bunch of nonsense, okay? There's no such thing as a nitrogen credit for soybeans. What's happening though, and the reason why people start figuring that, is there isn't the tie-up of nitrogen that you have in some of those high carbon residue crops like corn or wheat, for example. And they don't figure, and what they should do is figure this organic matter mineralization. So I'm just trying to say, there's no such thing as a soybean credit, but there is an absolutely scientifically proven thing of organic matter mineralization where you're going to get some free nitrogen coming out of your soil for each 1% of organic matter. So don't figure a soybean credit, but do figure an organic matter mineralization credit.
Well, this is certainly something you need to figure into your nitrogen fertilizer plans. And if you've got high levels of organic matter, don't be applying 200 pounds of nitrogen for a 200 bushel corn yield goal. You're not going to need that much. You're able to cut back quite a bit. Now, the thing with the organic matter mineralization, though, is it's going to happen a little later in the season. So you want to make sure you have plenty of nutrients to be available early season as your crop will dictate.
Well, so far we've just run through a few of the advantages to organic matter. There are many more that we haven't even talked about today. But rather than spend the rest of our time talking about more benefits to organic matter, hopefully as a farmer you already know organic matter is incredibly important. So let's talk about how we're going to build organic matter levels going forward. The number one thing on our list is always reduce tillage.
When you think about organic matter, again, we started by saying the organic material on top of the soil is not the organic matter that's in your soil. And what's really going to help build that organic matter in the soil is by allowing the root systems to naturally decay. So most of your organic matter is going to be built by decaying roots. Here's the other thing. When we do tillage, we introduce oxygen into the soil, which sounds like a good thing, but really what happens is it ends up burning up organic matter quickly. So by doing the tillage, we can actually lower our organic matter levels in our soil, even if we're incorporating that organic material down under the soil.
All right, the next thing you want to do, in addition to reducing tillage, and that doesn't mean you have to go straight no-till, but we want you to reduce your tillage. The next thing is plant crops with lots of roots. Darren just told you that having a lot of roots in the ground and leaving them intact will help build organic matter faster. Well, just as an example here, corn has roughly 5 times the root mass of soybeans. I'm not saying you can't build your overall organic matter with soybeans, but I am saying you can do it faster with corn.
When it comes to fertility sources, using manure or compost rather than just commercial fertilizer as a way that you can help build up organic matter levels in your soils faster too.
And 2 last things I would mention, cover crops and the use of biological products. So we've listed 5 things there. Again, it's reduce your tillage, plant crops with lots of roots, use manure, use cover crops, and use biological products. If you do those 5 things consistently over the next 10 years, you absolutely should build your organic matter levels, maybe even a couple of points.
Well, building organic matter levels can be really important for your profitability and for your yield. And it's one of those things that helps your soil in so many ways with nutrient holding capacity, water holding capacity, and so forth. One of the things organic matter cannot do, though, is stop our weed of the week. We'll show you what will coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is brought to you by Dow AgroSciences. Finish the fight against tough weeds with the Enlist Weed Control System.
Weeds are tough, but we're tougher. With unrivaled weed control, reduced drift, and near zero volatility. So, who's tough now?
Most of the time here on Ag PhD, we talk about resistant broadleaves. In other words, broadleaves that are able to tolerate herbicides like the ALS products or Roundup, something like that. Well, today we've got a tough perennial weed that unfortunately also happens to be resistant to certain chemistry now. It's Johnson grass.
Well, Johnson grass is one of those weeds I'm really thankful that we don't have it on our farm yet because, as Brian mentioned, it's a perennial with rhizomes. So anytime you've got that, it's going to be difficult because you need a product that will get down into that root system that can move through the rhizomes and deliver a lethal dose to every growing point. There aren't very many products that do that. One that will is Roundup. Now, Roundup has been very effective on controlling grasses, and it's also very effective at controlling perennials if you use a high enough rate. If you're using a pint of Roundup, clearly if you've got an established patch of Johnson grass or any perennial weed, you're going to have a tough time moving to every growing point with a lethal dose.
All right, but what happens if your Johnson grass happens to be resistant to Roundup? Now, let's first talk about the difference between tolerance and resistance. When something's tolerant, simply using a higher rate or more concentrated droplets will kill it. And in some cases, that's what I've seen with Johnson grass. People tell me it's resistant, but you know what? If I went out there with a crazy, ridiculously high rate of Roundup, of course I never want to be off label, all right? But I want to use the highest possible Roundup rate labeled, and I want to use the lowest possible water rate. If I do that, well then all of a sudden I'm getting control. So I don't look at that as resistance. Now, if you are doing that and you're still not getting that weed under control, even if you sprayed the best conditions, you use smaller spray droplets, all these things, and it's still not working, well now you got to go to plan B. And what's plan B, Darren? Because I don't have a real great answer.
Pre-emerge herbicides don't always work very well on perennial weeds. They work pretty good on the annual weeds, but perennials can be tough. So when you've got a perennial like that, I really look at what do you have for options post-emerge. Now, most of the post-emerge grass killers for wheat, for example, are in the group 1 or group 2 category. Well, with group 1 or group 2, which ones are going to be effective? If we've got resistance to the ALS family or the ACCase family, now we're all of a sudden down to one mode of action. So that's what makes it really tough to try and control something like Johnson grass. In a burn down, gramoxone has been highly effective still. That may be something that you turn to before you even seed the crop.
Yep, and then when we start talking corn and soybeans, I look at Liberty. If you have Liberty tolerant crops, that absolutely can work. There certainly are other grass killers out there too. But again, this is a tough perennial weed. It's going to take multiple applications unless Roundup is still working for you on your farm.
That's all the time we have for this week's Weed, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
Our Morton is so much more to us than just a building. It's a place where we spend time with friends. It's a place where we hold family gatherings. It's become very important to us.
Morton Buildings. For work. For life. For generations. Contact us now during our annual sales event to save on your next building.
Grow your incentives, not weeds. Earn an additional $6 per acre in cash back when you apply XtendiMax herbicide with Vapor Grip technology on your Roundup Ready 2 Xtend soybeans, along with endorsed herbicides from Roundup Ready Plus Crop Management Solutions. Now you have the right tools to manage weeds and your bottom line. Visit GrowYourIncentives.com to see your total incentives opportunity.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Nodulation. It's essential for nitrogen fixation in soybeans, but how can you help it happen in your fields? Monsanto BioAg offers inoculants that answer that question. Microbial seed applied solutions that work to establish high populations of rhizobia in your fields, helping with optimum nodulation and increased performance in your soybeans. Learn how inoculants powered by nature can help you at monsantobioag.com/inoculate.
Let's face it, Joe. Some of these guys aren't easy to play. Biologicals are expensive. Humates and plant growth regulators are messy.
Yeah, but Agro Liquid has 4 new players that have really eliminated those problems. The Primer Go line has helped their team realize the benefits.
Wait, so season-long nutrition and optimized yields while creating a biologically active soil?
That's right. Primer Go line is a fantastic addition to Agro Liquid's stellar team.
Ideal for herbicide applications, the ultra-low drifts large air-inducted droplets were designed to eliminate driftable fines without sacrificing coverage. Its thick three-dimensional pattern creates multiple angles for the spray to cover the target. Hypro, helping you spray better.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
There's no magic to farming, but there is precision. So how precise do you need to be? I'll give one example in today's Iron Talk. Last year we had a very cool spring with snow and cold rains right around corn planting time in the upper Midwest. As a result, crops got off to a slow start in many cases. The fear of doing reduced till or no-till is that in cool years, the ground won't warm up as fast in the spring. In strip till, a strip is blackened where the planter is designed to come back and place the seed. Well, what happens if you miss that strip with your equipment and the seed is actually placed in the residue between the tilled strips? The answer is simple. Your emergence will be delayed, and it will take longer for the young corn plants to reach the fertilizer strip placed by your strip till machine. But how much will it impact yield? Studies have shown yield loss with seed placement even 2 inches outside of the strip. On our farm, we've seen seeds struggle with emergence once it gets off in the heavy residue between the rows. Now, if you really get off track, research has shown that some big yield losses will occur when you're 8 inches outside the strip, with a 10 to 15% yield penalty, and sometimes even more. Certainly the corn will take longer to reach maturity if it struggles with emergence, and this, at a minimum, results in wetter corn, which, even if it does yield the same, definitely takes profit away from your farm. So does precision farming pay? The answer is yes, but only if you're precise with your execution. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now, back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
If you're looking to expand your farm's grain handling, you want everything to be fast and efficient. The Quick Belt from Norwood Sales is your all-around grain handling solution. Our conveyor-based system uses an 18-inch belt and a 10-inch tube, which minimizes seed damage while moving more than 10,000 bushels an hour. That's fast enough to fill a semi in 6 minutes. Plus, our hood is designed to gently direct the flow of grain straight down, keeping your crop in condition. Keep your grain and your farm moving with the Quick Belt from Norwood Sales.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed our show today. If you're looking for more agronomic information, we invite you to tune into the Ag PhD radio show. We're on Sirius XM channel 147 at 2 p.m. Central each weekday.
And don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
Did you realize that a healthy soil only contains about 50% dirt? In order for the soil microbes and plants to work together properly, soil should contain 25% air and 25% water. Today's farming practices are designed around maintaining that healthy balance. To learn more, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.